Great.
For some reason, the Q&A feature isn't working for me. Can you try to click it and see what happens? Do you have it as an option?
No.
On the left-hand side of the screen?
I just have like M staring at me. I don't even have a chat option. Hold on, let me see if I can do the chat like in the thing here.
There's like a button that says Q&A, but not really sure how.
Did that come in?
It came into my personal GChat.
Oh, but not into the air thing. I wonder if it's a separate app.
Yo.
Is that Dylan?
What up, Seth?
What's up, Dylon?
All right, I'm going to go get my medicine. I'll be back. Hey, Dylan.
All right.
What up, Wally? How's things, Seth?
Things to things, man. Got my wisdom teeth out.
Shut up.
I'm all up on the painkillers. It's good stuff.
Let me come through, man. Oh man, those were the death of me back in the day.
No, it's actually not like it hasn't really been affecting me that much, to be honest. Just keeping the pain at bay.
They just gave you Percocet or whatever?
No, I've got hydrocodone and ibuprofen.
Yeah, and you went with the pills, not the liquid. I always ask for liquid so I can make it with Sprite.
No, just the pills.
How many did you get out?
I have no idea. Not that many. Oh boy.
Are you gonna play Fallout?
No, if I had a fucking device that could handle it, I would.
My friend's really pumped about it. There's like all these Boston scenes that they do really well, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that it's like very accurate too, which is cool. I never actually played any of the original Fallouts, did you?
No. I'm not a big gamer.
Oh, that's right.
What up, Emily? Oh shit, she's with Waleed for sure.
Yeah. Yo, nice haircut, Emily. No love. You guys see that cosecha sticker he's got in there?
What is it?
The cosecha sticker in his wall.
Oh shit. Oh, that's Diesel. That's a big one. What the fuck?
I know, it looks good.
Oh, that's the one that they put on the cans, I think.
Waleed's super sick right now too.
Fuck.
All of us are we're wounded. Battlefield stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Hope you feel better, Waleed. All hoodied up.
Let's do this.
Oh, is that your apartment, Dylan?
Yeah.
I like the bird.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have some leaves up there, too, but they're hidden.
Nice. How's it going, everyone? We're going to give folks a couple more minutes to hop on, and then we'll start with a round of introductions since we're all dispersed. Good to see you, Kate.
Hey. I got a question, a tech question.
What's up?
I tried to open up the YouTube link and it just loads and loads and loads and nothing happens. Did anyone try to open it?
That is above my pay grade. Waleed, you know what's up?
What? You tried, the link wouldn't load?
Yeah, the YouTube link is just like load bar and nothing happening in that browser window. I don't know if I shouldn't have slow internet because I'm on this just fine.
Weird. When I pulled it up, it worked, but
Okay.
let me try. Let me check again.
Well, I'll just
It
stay
was just a
on.
blank screen.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just stay here and maybe take my picture off. I absolutely must make myself something to eat a little bit while we do this. I don't want to be a distraction, which is why I wanted to just watch and not be seen.
No, it's all good. Kate, I was just on the core team call and I was making dinner and I dropped my pot full of rice and beans. It was very embarrassing.
Did you eat flor casamiento?
I did.
Is that what happened? Okay.
I did indeed.
For the folks who went to Swarm, just FYI, there'll be a lot of things you've already seen. But
Don't worry.
always learning something new.
Yeah.
Okay, I figured it out. Just so you know, I tried it in Safari, it never worked. In Firefox, it worked immediately.
Weird.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
maybe go and watch on the YouTube. Is that okay?
It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
good.
totally fine. For the folks who went to Swarm, just FYI, there'll be a lot of things you've already seen. That's me.
There it is. Quinn, how's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. We haven't met yet, but we'll do introductions here in a bit.
Yeah, I was like, oh, my name shows up on the screen.
Yeah, that's what's up.
I was like, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah, I'm actually NSA. Sorry, you just got punked real bad. Waleed, how long do you think we should wait?
Paul is about to hop on, so then we can. I guess we can just wait for him.
Cool. That sounds good. Y'all, anyone been watching the Spurs, man? Aldridge, reckon with the big three. So what's up?
You a Spurs fan?
Yeah, I grew up in San Antonio.
Yeah, I thought Aldridge would be. Seems like it's still Kawhi's team. Oh well.
Oh, it's definitely Kawhi's team.
Yeah.
You're not a Celtics fan, Seth? Now that you're in Boston?
Hell no, dude.
Dude, we've been crushing. We've been beating opponents by like 15 every night.
Fucking
Youngest team in the
Celtics.
league.
Yeah, I'm
Youngest-
going to the game. I'm going to the game though on Wednesday.
And you're saying fuck the Celtics? Come on.
Yeah, whatever, dude. You gotta go.
All right, let me get a ticket.
Yo, Lib's dad got it for us.
Oh, nice.
While we're waiting, y'all could also just click the link to the PowerPoint that I sent you in the email because we're gonna go over it.
There he is.
I thought you can only have 10 on Google Chat. Hello?
What's up, Paul?
You thought what?
I thought we can only have 10 on Google Chat.
We have less than 10.
Okay.
So you can have 10 people on the call, and then everyone else can watch on YouTube.
So Kate Warning is watching on YouTube as we speak.
Paul is
All right, so if
back
you want to
from
start?
retirement.
Yeah, let's start. So just as a norm on conference calls to make everyone feel sane, if you could mute yourself when you aren't talking, that would be awesome. And let's kick it off. So if you could start with your name, the organization you currently work for, or if you don't have an org, at least what you do with your time, the training that you first attended, how you first got to Momentum, and then as sort of a nerdy Momentum question, we want to know what your favorite part of the cycle of Momentum is. Favorite part of the cycle. So I can start, and then I'll pass it off kind of popcorn style. So my name is Seth. I currently work for an organization called the Leadership Development Initiative. We do faith-based organizing with young Christians. We're trying to incorporate Momentum technologies into a faith-based context. Very exciting. The first training I went to was January 2014. Yeah? No, 2015. Hasn't been long. And favorite part of the cycle, I think it's the most grindy type, but I actually think absorption is my favorite part, mostly because we need to absorb to win, and I'm still learning how to do that in the best way. So that's how I feel, and I'm going to pass it off to Kate.
Okay. So I came back on because there's a lot of masculine energy on this call. So I love that I just jumped right back on to try to balance that out. And the question is, what part of the cycle is your favorite part of the cycle? So I just want to hold down cycles for a second. I've been to all the Momentum trainings except for the one that just happened in Minnesota, which I'm super excited about and want to get more stories from. My favorite part is also absorption, and I feel like that's sort of masochistic because it's so laborious and not sexy, but I feel like also it's really important, and that being sort of a builder manager personality, so it's a great way to contribute. And I am with Citizen Well, and we are building a movement of folks in the well-being community, so yogis, meditators, healthy eaters, to engage in supporting the work of social movements and to work towards a world that offers the conditions of well-being to all people.
Kate, can you popcorn it to someone?
Oh, of course. I'm going to send it to Alex.
Alex, are you there?
Hey, this is Alex. I'm actually walking at the moment. Now's not the best time, but I could do it if you want. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Say what you want to say, and then we'll keep moving.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Alex. I work with New Jersey United Students, which is a student-run, student-led grassroots organization in New Jersey fighting for student issues and student rights. And we're engaged currently in a campaign for free higher education. Played out the way we'd want it to. I've never been to a Momentum training, but I have watched all the Momentum webinars. So I don't know how good of a substitute that is, but
dedicated.
That's
man.
my background. Sorry, could you say that again?
No, I was just speaking to your dedication. Welcome to the crew.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and my favorite part of the Momentum cycle is probably creating trigger events, because I'm not very exciting and kind of both an art as well as a science. But at the same time, I don't exactly understand how to do it. And so, yeah, that's my favorite part. Thank you.
Awesome. Dylan, you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks. What's up, everybody? Really excited to be on the call here tonight. I'm Dylan Lazaro, currently working for the Youth Jobs Coalition, and I have a future based in Dorchester and Boston, and seeking full youth employment. Currently, I guess my favorite part of the momentum cycle is absorption, because if we can't absorb people, then we can't win. And I'll popcorn it to Quinn.
And just a reminder, I want to mute when you're not talking. All right, go ahead, Quinn.
I'm glad to be here. My name is Quinn Rollins. I'm finishing up law school. I just finished up law school at Northeastern University School of Law. I was a grassroots organizer before law school, so I helped build PICO's organization in Massachusetts, Massachusetts Communities Action Network, and PICO's organization out in Alabama. And I'm about to start organizing again. I'm actually going to be doing organizing in school, finishing up simultaneously. So I'm just trying to do some processing in the next month or so. And Carlos is a friend of mine, and a lot of different folks. So yeah, I'm trying to just shake off the dust. Oh, momentum cycle. I actually don't even know the cycle, so this is all new to me.
Beautiful. Well, Quinn, after the call, I'd love to get your email so we can have a one-to-one and talk about coming
Welcome to the church.
Amen.
Amen. Paul, you want to go next?
So my name is Paul. I am part of a community and nonprofit called the Center for the Working Poor, but my biggest affiliation is Momentum, and it almost kind of like affects me that people are actually watching these boring webinars that we did for absolutely no resources, in which I had no idea that hundreds and hundreds of people were going to watch me pick my nose as I did these trainings. Thank you, Alex, for tolerating such webinars. So anyways, that's me.
And hey, Maria, thanks for joining. Can you say your name, the org? Oh, she just left. Oh, I scared her. Waleed, you want to say something?
My name is Waleed. I'm on the Momentum Core team with Paul and Seth, and I work with Working Families Party in Pennsylvania. And my favorite part of the cycle is also absorption, because you can do more shit afterwards with more people. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Emily. I work for an organization a network called If Not Now.
A movement.
A movement, which is a group of Jews trying to end our community support for the occupation of Palestine. And we are deep in our DNA process and starting our mass training program. And my favorite part, this is such a dorky question, props to whoever chose it. Definitely preparation, because it's the step that makes all of the other steps possible.
Awesome.
Who's next? Seth?
I think it's just Maria. Oh gosh, she keeps leaving whenever I say her name.
Okay. Should we start?
Yeah, why don't you hop in?
Escalation, because it's sexy. I mean, it's the climax. You know, like, that's like, yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Paul.
So if everyone could click the PowerPoint link that I've shared with you over email, share my screen. We can say goodbye to my face. We're going to just be doing some of the basic sorts of things that actually I went through at the swarm training. And we're not going to be able to get super in-depth on things, but we'll be able to introduce you to some topics. So as I'm sure you're aware, decentralization is like a really big trend right now in how you set up an organization, whether that's a political organization, a movement, a healthcare system, a business, and even the Catholic Church has been talking about how they can actually decentralize how their clergy operate, and also how their lay people operate. Let me go to the next slide. So we're not really arguing that decentralization or centralization is good or bad. These are simply just dynamics that happen in organizations, and they're actually verbs. They're about what you do, not just what you what you say you do. So the way that we want to think about centralization is that it's a process by which information, planning, and decision making in an organization becomes concentrated within a particular location. Whereas decentralization is a process that redistributes or disperses those functions, power, people, information, or resources away from a central body and toward other nodes. And this is just a helpful tool to think about like the different elements of like how to think about setting up an organizational system. Understanding an organization or understanding a dynamic, designing an organization or dynamic, and building an organization dynamic. So different people are going to be at different stages of this. And the purpose of today is mostly in the understanding section and maybe a little bit in the designing one. But that's just to frame how we're thinking about this stuff. And feel free to, if you want to type in, you want to interrupt with a question or comment, definitely feel free to do that. So basically, decentralization and centralization are on a spectrum. And so there are all these different ways your organization can be set up, from all the way to the right end of the spectrum, which is centralization, ultra rigid, like a military, and all the way to the left, which is decentralized organization with what we call our weak principles, meaning there's not that much holding the organization together. And then there's also centralized command with centralized components. So a union worker committee has a centralized command, and decision making and basically every function of the union is mostly made in a centralized manner. Whereas in the Obama campaign in 2008, there was centralized command kind of describing and like setting the agenda for what the electoral strategy would look like and the field strategy would look like, but they decentralized certain components of it so that lots of volunteers could plug into the campaign without having to be bottlenecked through it in a lot of different ways. Story of Self is another way that that campaign was decentralized. There was a tool that lots of people can do house meetings on their own. And then the other category that we're talking about with momentum in particular is decentralization with strong principles. So basically that means that there's actually a lot of structure for and a really large framework for people to do with whatever they want. And you can see that with Alcoholics Anonymous, that people come together for a certain ritual, and that ritual is the same everywhere in the country, no matter where you go. And the 12 steps are the same everywhere, and those are the principles that are upholding that form of decentralization. And Otpor, the Serbian movement that we talk a lot about in Momentum, also had a very large and very cohesive framework that held the organization together, even as it decentralized decision-making away. So now I want to turn it to you all and ask you where, not everyone has to go, but we'll popcorn a few answers, maybe 2 or 3, about where your organization is right now, you think, on the spectrum, and where you want it to go. And Seth, could you take over facilitating this part?
Yeah, for sure. first, maybe anyone have any questions, or someone just want to hop in talking about where they're at?
This is Quinn. I can jump in. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're all set.
I'm not affiliated with any organization right now, but I know within Pico, I would say that it falls on the centralized command with centralized components. Yeah. I would say that it falls on the centralized command with centralized components. It is. I just seen some of the challenges for organizers in terms of the way it's been built, in terms of like shepherding and a lot of hand holding the core units that have been developed in a way where it can't operate without the without the organizer there, and thus when you have turnover from organizers, you see a fledgling organization based on that. So it's just been and that was that was 2 or 3 years ago, but that was my experience there.
Quinn, I wonder, is there anything from your experience in Pico that you would say was a positive of that kind of structure? Like anything that they might have gained from that kind of situation?
Yeah, I think that the pro is that you can develop some really powerful units, but the problem is it's very hard to expand. So you'll have let's say, for example, I was out in Birmingham. You'll need to build 9 local organizing networks throughout all 9 electoral districts. But in the reality, what'll happen is you'll build 2 really strong ones and 7 fledgling ones, and you'll have extreme power in those 2 different districts. But ultimately, regardless, when the organizer moves, it's just not sustainable. So I think that the real strength is that where the organizer is, you can build really heavy, especially because there's a tremendous amount of trust from local folks for the organizer. But it's too much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Quinn. And I'm seeing some nodding out there. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people's experience. Anyone else have maybe a different place where you're located on the spectrum, and maybe talk about some of the positives of where you're at?
Well, I think it's really good for us to think even like the Momentum team, because I know a lot of people here are on the Momentum phone call, and it's kind of interesting because we did a lot of front loading around the training, and that was sort of centralized in the core team. And as we've grown, we just had our first training where Carlos and I didn't go, and a trainer, Nicole, somebody else did the training, which is really awesome. We're decentralizing it, and we still have core functions, and it is more and more led by the core, not by anyone in the core. So that's disseminated. Like the core, there's a collective leadership structure of the core that does stuff. But actually getting the core to disseminate it to the community of practice, I think we take like this huge leap of training trainers, and then decentralizing aspects that are held now in the core and giving that out. But we're still really struggling, I think, to figure out how to do that, how to take the training and actually give it out, disseminate the development of the training, running the training out to the community of practice instead of holding that in the core. And we're really trying to create a totally decentralized model of mass training, but we're still in that, and we've realized like there's been way too much dependency on me and Carlos, especially for developing stuff. But now we're doing a good job of disseminating, but it takes time. But I think dependency is like really helpful, because I think that's where you see whether or not you're centralized or decentralized. Is like, where's the bottleneck? Where is the dependency that
Right.
you have?
Thanks, Paul. And we'll get into a little bit more later on in the presentation around some of the conditions that you can look for that are signifiers for what kind of structure you have and the kind of conditions that you can create to change that situation. But thanks for flagging that, Paul. Can we get one more person to talk maybe somewhere else on the scale?
So the Youth Jobs Coalition is located at Central Command with decentralized components, and that is also our work previously was more centralized command with centralized components, and we're moving further down the spectrum as our relationship with momentum and with those ideas and how we integrate continues to grow and develop. And so now we're in a place where we're starting, where we're trying to put together a DNA of our movement and being able to disseminate it in a way that would allow for even more decentralization. But we're still like only probably 30% of the way toward being able to have that set of core principles and like a four-phase strategy or a plan to win around full youth employment. So that's what I would say for us, and it's also like we're working mainly with teenagers who are mostly in high school, and so there is ways in which we can decentralize that I think we're like still trying to, we're still in the experimentation phase around what's going to work and what isn't.
Awesome, thanks, Dylan. All right, so yeah, it's good to just hold this in your back pocket if you ever run into a question with folks that you're working with around, you know, where are we, where do we want to go. It's helpful to have this tool in the back pocket. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Might be a little hard to see, but I'll give an overview of it, and then I'll read some of the more particulars. But basically, we want to talk a little bit more about how your organization might identify a mental model that it fits into on how it both sees its purpose and how it chooses to live its purpose out, its function. So there's 7 models here on 2 slides that sort of lay out different ways of thinking about organization and some of the characteristics that feed into the particular motivation of the function. So the first one, in a static sense, you're really thinking about how things connect, and parts seem relatively permanent. They're held by inertia, and they're very hierarchical, classification oriented. So something like buildings, any kind of structure that's permanent, banks, bridges, things that hold things together and connect them. A mechanical model, you're thinking about movement. So it's always about energy from the outside. Things are working together. There's always a cause and an effect. Your model is thinking about how do you move quickly, how do you react to things, how do you maximize results. Self-regulating systems are more about adaptation, and it's really a metaphor for how an organization might respond to things. So help me think about this. Yeah, like thermostats, computer systems, intelligent software, also maybe a political party might have some self-regulating systems, how it adapts to environments. Feedback is super critical. They're always thinking about the polls. Their primary function is adapting to what they're experiencing. And really all of these things are mental models or metaphors for how you might see an organization. Self-reproducing, so cells are a great example of this. They're really thinking about how do they replicate. Change is fundamental. They're always going through a cycle of either reproduction or change or growth. So some examples of that in movement spaces might be Cosecha, which Maria is on here now. They have a great model of reproduction, and I might lean on her to say more about that later. The self-expanding model, maybe of a plant. So the really emphasis there is how do you grow? You're taking basic elements, you're turning them into deeper, richer things, and there's thoughts about how do you seed things, how do you clone them. I can't think of a good movement organizational example. Wally, do you have any off the top of your head that might fit into that self-expanding model?
Parts of Cosecha and If Not Now are about seeding and growing. So it's about starting new kinds of organizations, not just reproducing the same one.
Great. Yeah, and then the last two, so self-moving. This is really on a massive scale. How do you get large sort of intelligence swarms to move together? They're modifying their conditions. They move in packs. Thinking about the way that national organizations and coalitions might respond to a particular moment, all mobilizing at the same moment and acting sort of independently but moving together as a swarm. That's sort of what we talk about as a swarm structure. And then the last, a metaphor for a self-reflexive, these might be sort of the prefigurative communities, movement for a new society or cooperatives. They're really thinking about themselves. They're putting forward ideas about themselves, how they can move into the future. And yeah, I think the best example metaphorically for an organization like that would be some kind of cooperative or an intentional community. And really the point of showing forward these mental models is about just giving us some metaphors to think more critically about our own organizations. And really the two questions are, what is the vision or what's the purpose of your organization? And then how do you live out that purpose through your function? So these models give us a metaphor to maybe look into how we behave and how we accomplish our purpose. So I just want to give people a chance to ask some questions and then maybe identify your own organization on one of these spectrums and one of these models and say a little bit more about a metaphor that might explain how your org is working. And I could say a little bit from my own experience. So I work with a lot of churches, and a lot of churches are in this sort of static mental model. Often they are performing functions to connect long-standing traditions. They're very hierarchical. Their purpose is to survive and to persist, and they take on a lot of those characteristics that are listed there. And I think something that's interesting is often people in the church don't identify this particular metaphor for what they do. They think it's living. Oftentimes we talk about the body of Christ, for those of you that are aware of sort of Christian metaphor language. But actually, I think a more appropriate metaphor would be the building because of how static it is and the function that's performing, which is really about connecting people across long distances and different experiences and being rather hierarchical. Yeah, so I wonder, Dylan, do you have any thoughts on how the YJC might fit in, like what mental model might work for you guys or what you're currently using?
Yeah, I can share. I think so for the YJC, or the Youth Jobs Coalition, which is a part of MCAN, which was mentioned, is an affiliate of PICO, is definitely, historically at least, one of these mechanical organizations. And so we're in a process now that's been since at least October 2014, when I was first introduced to Momentum, of really figuring out how we move from just a mechanical organization that wins on important things and does great work around economic justice. We were part of Earned Sick Time and the wins around minimum wage, and we've been a part of efforts to win over $50 million in youth jobs funding, and yet still conditions for the young people that are organizing are getting worse every day. And so for us, it's just about identifying the fact that we are a mechanical model, and if we're going to be a cause for racial justice, that our mechanics aren't set up to do that, and trying to figure out how we move ourselves how we integrate the whole seeding and self-expanding practices into how we operate. And so like that's why we'll have a mass training coming up in December, and we're hoping to usher in a sort of new wave of our work, which, as I said, we're going to be calling I Have a Future. So it's definitely this departure from mechanical model inside the Pico and MCAN frame, and moving toward self-producing and self-expanding.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. Waleed, I wonder if could you say a little bit more about where you see those different parts of If Not Now and Cosecha fitting into the self-expanding model?
So for both If Not Now and Cosecha, what I know about them is that this idea that the parts connect, they move, they adapt, they reproduce, and they grow. I would say for both the organizations, they are very keen on wanting to grow and not just reproduce. And the growing happens through the doing actions that draw more of the public into these trainings, or even into the actions themselves, and then training them to like start their own circles and stuff. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah. I think, sorry, I'm just reading the description. I think the other part that really jumps out at me about self-expanding is that they live in ecosystems, and something that we're thinking a lot about is how do we actually push people towards more organizations that are, Jewish social justice organizations. How do we work? How do we ask synagogues to be, if not now, synagogues, right? Like, working within the movement ecology for people to really to not be like proprietary about who's coming into our organizations, and they're only If Not Now members, and they can only wear their If Not Now garb, right? But to actually see ourselves working in concert with a lot of different organizations, faith-based or justice-based, to push our community towards a different, more decentralized model.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, it's super important to point that stuff out. The last thing I'll say before we move on, unless anyone has any questions, is that each model might apply to a different phase of a movement. It might apply to a different particular branch of an organization. So you might have, like in the Cosecha example, which is a movement to secure full citizenship for all undocumented people in the United States. You might have small circles of people that are really focusing on reproducing, and that's their purpose, and that's the function that they're serving for the movement, and they understand that in the strategy. And then on a bigger level, at a higher level of organization, the communities are really thinking about how do they grow, how do they take care of folks, how do they add support, how do they understand themselves in the ecosystem. So different levels of organization might have different mental models that make better sense. And really, this is just a tool to discern for yourselves, like where your organization might need to think about it and apply a useful metaphor.
Yeah. Can you, this is Quinn, can you just say a little bit about the difference between the self-expanding and the self-moving one more time?
Yeah. So I think the best way to understand that is that for the self-expanding model, you're really thinking about like the growth, the particular organism or the particular organization is thinking about growing. So it's trying to bring in resources, it's trying to add to them, it's trying to seed new growth. It's about the organization itself. And then in self-moving, it's about gathering the different pieces and moving them together. It's about moving, taking action, it's collective movement. So it might be the difference between, in your example, Quinn, for Pico, if a Pico affiliate was really focused on building internal leadership, a model that might make sense is this self-expanding model. They might be thinking about how do we grow, how do we understand our ecosystem in Birmingham, how do we relate to other organizations. But if they are in a phase where they're thinking about how do we take collective action, they're going to try to figure out how do we modify our environmental conditions, how do we move people together, how do we get them all on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I think maybe like a good example might be like In evangelicals, they have church growth, which is it's kind of decentralized. It's like one church gets really good and they have a really good model, and then they try to replicate it and translate it to a different context. Well, the missional church, what it's doing is trying to create small groups that replicate all the time without any advice from the centralized church. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a different, self-expanding would be like church growth, which is still decentralized and still replicating, but is still dependent on creating one good model and then replicating, where self-reproducing is constantly, the groups are constantly replicating themselves. They create small groups create more small groups, those small groups create small groups, and so on.
Right. And I think the most helpful piece of this particular diagrams is what's the purpose of each model is highlighted in that bolded word. So the purpose of self-reproducing is reproduction. The purpose of self-expanding is growing. And Paul, you laid out a great example of that.